Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Drew Buttress. I am the Senior Product Manager for Sony's Pro Projection Solutions, as well as Sony's PTZ cameras and the Edge Analytics appliance. Sony is known worldwide as an imaging company. Today we are showing several of our cameras, controllers, the Edge Analytics appliance, as well as the Dante-based IP beamforming mic. So we'll begin. Over here on my left, we have the SRG X400. You can see it's in white. It's also available in black. It is 4K 30p with the optional 4K license, and it is NDI HX ready, meaning with that optional license, you can move to an NDI workflow. It's based on an 8.6 megapixel imager, scaling to 4K 30p or 1080p 60. It has a 20x optical zoom, and it has a feature we call clear image zoom. Clear image zoom is a scaling technique where it's very unlike what you would think of as digital zoom. So by turning on clear image zoom, your 20x can become 40 times in a full HD format, or if you've upgraded to 4K, your 20 times can become 30 times. The camera is PoE+, and it offers RTSP, RTMPS, SRT streaming, and it is NDI HX upgradable. Over here I have the SRG X120. This is also 4K and NDI HX upgradable. It's based on the same 8.6 megapixel imager, and with the 4K license, you're able to scale to 4K 30p or a full HD format. It has a 12x optical zoom with a 12x digital zoom on the back end. It is PoE+. It has RTSP, RTMPS, SRT for streaming outputs, as well as NDI. Both of these work with something Sony has just released. It's called the Virtual Windows Driver. This driver, when installed on a Mac OS or Windows-based system, that would allow you to then bring a non-USB camera into things like Teams, Zoom, and WebEx. Up here we have the SRG XP1. This is a 1/1.8 type 8.4 megapixel imager, capable of doing 4K 60p. It has an 85-degree horizontal field of view if you're using lens distortion correction. If you turn off lens distortion correction, you can now stretch out to a 102-degree horizontal field of view. It offers a 3x pixel zoom, a 2x digital zoom, giving you the equivalent of a 6x zoom, and it will take controls and operate as an electronic PTZ camera. It does have HDMI 2.0, USB 3.0, and for streaming, we can do RTSP, RTMPS, SRT, and it is NDI HX upgradable. And this camera is also PoE, white or black. Over here, we have the SRG XB25. It's a 1/2.5 type 8.5 megapixel imager. It has a 25 times optical zoom lens, and when we throw in the 3x pixel zoom and 2x digital zoom, you're now at 150 times equivalent zoom. It is HDMI 2.0, and you can stream RTSP, RTMPS, SRT, and it is also NDI HX ready, meaning with a license you can go to an NDI workflow. I mentioned it's 4K 60p, and it is also a PoE camera. Here in the middle, this is the REA C1000 Edge Analytics appliance. The Edge is actually a high-end GPU running AI-based software. There's 2 HDMI inputs, 2 HDMI outputs. It is capable of RTSP, RTMPS, and SRT streaming, and it'll work with that virtual Windows driver. It's also quite scalable. There are 5 licenses. You only pay for what you need. Each license is a one-time, lifetime license fee. So let me cover the licenses. First, we have handwriting extraction. Handwriting extraction is where we can use a fixed camera up to 4K 30p. The application gets started by defining the 4 corners of the whiteboard or blackboard, and then as things change on that board, we're capturing that, processing it into this digital overlay. By changing the transparency of the presenter as they move in front of the board, that digital overlay appears to float out in front of them. We're also capturing color, whether it's markers on a whiteboard or chalk on a blackboard, and we add that in as part of the digital overlay. Second application is PTZ auto tracking. And just as it sounds, the Edge will detect the face of a presenter inside of a detection zone, And then we're going to start tracking on color, pattern, shape, size, and motion. As the presenter moves about, Edge is controlling that PTZ camera to follow them, and when they stop, they would then be centered in the frame. Third application is close-up by gesture. Close-up by gesture is where, again, we could use a fixed camera facing an audience. As an audience member stands up to, say, ask a question or make a point, we zoom in on that person. When they sit down, we then go back out to that wide shot of the entire audience. Fourth application is called chroma keyless overlay. We train the system on the background. Anything that then changes gets keyed out of that background. So if I walk into that wall that's been defined as the background, I'm pulled out of the image. The nice thing about this application, there are multiple layers. So that background layer can be either one of the preloaded backgrounds, or the end user can upload whatever they want as a background up to UHD resolution. What then happens is with the second HDMI input, you can connect it to your laptop, show a PowerPoint, show photos, show charts. It becomes part of the presentation. So the deepest layer is the background, next layer out is the presentation, and you can define and move that area that's going to be presented in. The next layer is the presenter, which would be whoever's in the shot. And then we can add a layer in front, which could be a virtual desk, a virtual podium, and then, of course, the closest to the camera, if you will, could be a logo. The fifth application is called focus area cropping. Again, we're using a fixed camera, and then we define an area for detection, and we define the area we want to crop. And as a person moves in and gets detected, then we will follow them by moving that cropped view. So the two outputs, first output would be the original wide view, the second output is that cropped view. This is the MAS A100. This is Sony's IP beamforming microphone. It is PoE, it is Dante, which is voice over IP, a single Cat5 connection. You're powering and you're grabbing the output of the mic. Ceiling mounted, and allows for hands-free operation in a meeting room, a classroom, an auditorium. There are two channels. As I said, they're Dante based. The first channel would be for speech reinforcement, which would be to amplify the speaker's voice around that room. The other is for recording, which would let you, say, pick up a larger area. Maybe you'd have one mic in the front of the room to catch the instructor. Towards the middle of the room, you would put a second mic and grab that second channel so you'd pick up anybody asking questions. Very easy to install, and we offer a free software download called MASM, and this allows you to do system-wide configuration and update of all the IP mics that might be on a floor in a building, etc. Now let's move on to the controllers. This is our RMIP10. So our entry-level controller that does VISCA over IP, RS-232, RS-422. When using VISCA over IP, you're able to control 16 groups of 7 cameras or 112 cameras. If you're using a serial interface, you are limited to 7, and those cameras have to be daisy-chained. We have a free software download called RMIP Setup Tool, and with this utility, you're able to set the IP address of the cameras as well as the controller, and then you build the camera table so the controller knows which camera to control as, buttons 1 through whatever. Lastly, we have the RMIP 500. This is our professional grade controller, has a lot of great features for amazing control over the cameras that you're controlling. It can handle 10 groups of 10 cameras, VISCA over IP. It can do serial RS-422 up to 7 cameras. The really neat thing on here is it's extremely flexible. I can actually adjust the pan tilt speed for the joystick. I can adjust the zoom control speed, and I have 2 ways of controlling zoom, either this left-handed seesaw or at the top of the joystick like the traditional controller. I've also got focus control, so if I'm doing manual focus, I can tighten up just how sensitive I need the focus knob to be. Lastly, there are 6 software assignable buttons, and with that, the end user is able to assign a button to toggle between two functions. So you can make this very flexible based on the kind of shoot you're trying to accomplish. And lastly, it has a feature called Auto IP Assign. With Auto IP Assign, we're able to set the IP addresses of all the cameras without the use of that RMIP setup tool utility. I'm actually controlling this camera up here. I'm going to now do a move out. So that concludes what I have to present today. I appreciate your time. Please stay tuned for our Q&A.